It's Friday, Friday, Friday. How are we all feeling about it being Friday?
Good.
I am so glad it's a Friday.
Do you know what? I am too. I've been rather tired out by this week, by stuff that's been going on and trying to be creative and trying to get technical stuff to work. It's been really weird. So why are you tired, Parker? Why are you happy it's Friday?
Just a lot of uni work.
Yeah.
Uni work, doing a bit of redecorating at home.
Yeah.
So, I applied for a youth work masters.
Oh, that's very fancy, isn't it? Oh,
Yeah.
you're doing that in Northampton?
If I get accepted, yeah.
If you get accepted, that's cool, wicked. And so we've got a special guest here today. I'm going to poke him through there.
Why?
If only. Right, you should have gone the other way. Let's do it again. You ready? Poke.
Ow.
No, the other way. You meant to go.
My camera's inverted.
I know, it's really weird.
I don't know why.
So we're joined by Richard, who comments on a lot of the stuff that we have. And because I had another guest kind of drop out last minute that I'd planned, Richard's happily stepped up, which is wicked. So thank you for coming to join us, Richard.
All right.
We have had a little bit of a slow week on news, haven't we? Nothing's really happened that has made me go, I need to rant about that any more than usual. Yeah, I know. It's like any more than usual. So, I mean, obviously it's half term next week, which, Richard, you're off, I presume. Yep. Parker, you'll still have uni work to do.
I still have uni work to do. Living the dream.
Living the dream of higher education. So if you are watching us, please give us a like, please give us a comment. I can bring up all your comments as we discuss various things. But I thought we'd use this opportunity to kind of talk about how far we've come so far, really, because we looked at a little bit of the COVID stuff. Hold on. No relegation in rugby. That's big news. That's big local news. I like that. Thanks, Lod. So Parker found this earlier. So the R rating is below 1 for the first time since July. Was that you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is all good news, I think, because it does show that everything's going in the right direction, don't you think? That we're doing the right thing?
Yeah, it shows that lockdown's working. It's dropped significantly since lockdown. I mean, I'm just reading it now. The figures is now between 0.7 and 0.9. Okay,
yeah, so it's only just dropped below. It should add that, it doesn't mean that you can go, yeah, let's go out and give everyone a hug. You shouldn't really still do that.
Until that.
Yeah, it's really weird. Richard, I mean, have you even been out, really? You've been doing all of your college work online, haven't you?
I can't even remember when the last time I was out, to be honest with you.
And that's also because you're a geek. So we don't get much sun. We don't get much sun, do we?
Yeah, I might be a gamer, but I do go outside a bit still when I can.
When you can. I get forced to go out sometimes, which is quite fun. So I mean, it's good. Do you think it's good news to young people? What do you reckon? Do you reckon they even follow it? They even pay attention to the R number?
I think people will be happy about it because it's one step closer to COVID going if we get another spike.
Yeah. I mean, the other spike.
Knowing the kids, they'll keep doing what they were doing, though.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm hoping like now they understand what is going on because it's been going on over a year now, and it's still going. So.
Yeah, well, it is basically a year, but not until the first lockdown when it kicked in. That was like sometime next month, wasn't it? For a year's time. I mean, so this is all good news, but I mean, I did see some scientific reports about not an easing off of lockdown, but a continuation of social distancing. Now, so they said until autumn. So keep a meter away from strangers is the idea, and get used to wearing a mask. So still wearing a mask if you go to a public place that is full How do you feel about that, both?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, it's sort of become a norm for me now.
Yeah.
And it's like the vaccine doesn't stop you getting the virus anyway. So even when they vaccinated so many people, you can still carry the virus. So keeping that distance and wearing a mask will then further prevent you from spreading it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's good. Lawrence, I just put this up, but strangers have the best sweets. No, Lawrence, you're doing it wrong.
No, they don't.
Lawrence, your first comment, I'm going to bring that up in a second because we're going to touch on vaccinations after this. But yeah, Richard, go for it. What do you reckon? Do you think it's, should we just get used to keeping our distance from people?
For now, yes.
Yeah,
I expect when COVID goes, people are still going to be wearing masks. People are still going to be saying meters apart from each other until they know 100% it's gone. Gone.
I mean, I think I've mentioned this about a friend of mine in the past. I mean, he loves the fact that everyone's got to keep their distance because he really doesn't like having people near him or in his personal space. He's loving it. He's like, I go to the shop, I kind of glare at people wearing my mask and they keep their distance. I mean, I think that's good. I mean, I think get used to it, like wearing the mask. I mean, I'm used to it as well a bit for going into shops and stuff. I mean, going about into the park, I don't because I want some fresh air in my lungs. But you've got to point out that in lots of Asian countries, like particularly Japan, they've worn masks in urban settings forever. And it's just they just kind of get on with it. And I think a load of those, like the Asian countries that have done the best at facing COVID are the ones that are so used to wearing masks. I don't know if correlation is causation there, but I think there's a possibility of links. What do you reckon?
Probably.
I mean, if you think of it in a way, because I'm going to say this and I'm going to get a cold now, but I haven't had a cold yet.
I had one.
Well, so this is going to bring up the argument that lots of, should we say, anti-vaxxers use with regards to, well, the flu statistics are down. Well, this is just and just saying something is hidden. Maybe it's because if you wash your hands and keep your distance from people, you don't get as many illnesses.
Yeah,
maybe.
I haven't had a cold and I haven't had the flu. I've actually been pretty healthy this year in terms of not getting ill. And it's like when I went to uni, because when we started, we were doing some face-to-face sessions, and within the first 3 weeks, you have freshers' flu, but I haven't had freshers' flu.
Because you're not going near those horrible, dirty students.
It's because all the provisions are working. So if it can prevent you from getting a cold, it can prevent you from somewhat getting the virus.
Wash your dirty hands, I think, is the is the answer to that, really. So Leanne has come on saying same. I presume that's about keeping your distance because you've said I like to keep the distance from people. And then Laura, hello Laura again. So people know about the dangers of unprotected sex, but they don't always choose to use contraception. Interesting how masks are much more readily accepted and followed. Just a thought. Well, are they more readily accepted? Are they? What do you reckon?
I don't know.
I mean, have either of you two been out to the shop or anything and seen people not wearing masks? Because I remember Charlotte said last week, where she works at Waitrose, there are still people doing it. Where I had to go into Co-op, well, I didn't have to, but I really wanted to go into Co-op yesterday because I'd run out of cheese, and I have to have cheese. And there were just people I'm like, get away! Just keep away from me. Stay away. Have you found any of that? People just still not caring?
I haven't been to the shop since masks in shops were mandatory.
Wow.
I haven't been to a shop since. So
wow.
I mean, because I went to the shop today, went to my local Morrison's. There were more customers wearing masks than there were staff.
More customers wearing than staff?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And the staff have to be the most protected.
Yeah. Well, they should be being extra careful, shouldn't they? Yeah. That's a bit weird for me. That's a bit strange. And well, Lawrence has just put up, why was millions spent telling people wash your hands, mingers? I know. It's like
it's the one rule where everyone should have known.
Yeah, like really early on. I mean, it's my pet hate. I mean, I haven't been into a pub in ages, but it's like when you see people, they go to the loo, have a wee, and then don't wash their hands when they come out. And I want to have words. I really do want to have words. And I think that brings up a really important message that I remember from one of the first lockdowns, and it came out of because of a program that was on Netflix. Wash your hands, you dirty pig. A TV program called Sex Education. I really liked it. I thought it was quite funny. Some very good little messages in there as well. And Loza said, all the stuff at my local cart wear the sunflower lanyard, so don't wear masks. The sunflower what is that? The sunflower lanyard?
Oh,
have you not heard of the sunflower lanyard?
No. What is it? Explain it to me.
So if you have a hidden disability, where wearing a mask will cause some sort of issue or trouble, whether it's physical or a mental health issue, you wear the sunflower lanyard so that people can visibly see that you have a reason for not wearing it. The only thing with that is you don't have to provide proof that you have an illness, so people will buy them or get them and wear them even if they don't.
Yeah,
just to get out of it.
That is so. That's it. Now I get why Loz put a little dubious about that, because I do understand that. Wearing a mask is uncomfortable, yeah, but just because you find it uncomfortable doesn't make you medically exempt. I think we should point that out. But also, with Lawrence's point there about the staff, I mean, I would argue that if you've got a medical condition, which means you can't wear a mask in the middle of a pandemic where masks protect you, should you be going to work?
Depends on the issue, I guess. So I know someone who has a mental health condition that prevents them from wearing a mask, but that doesn't stop them from going to the shops, for example.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of physical health, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but then again, it depends how severe it is.
Yeah, so let's take for example a couple of my friends, one who's got MS and one who's got ME. Their immune systems are shot, really. So they have never been out without a mask when they've had to go out because online shopping has been king. But I think there's a risk there. I think Loz has put calling them chances because you can get them for $2.99 on eBay. And I think it's a great idea, absolutely amazing idea to cover up hidden disabilities, especially mental health ones that people don't understand. But yeah, it just makes me dubious about certain people's truthfulness. Maybe it's me being too cynical. I've lost that Friday feeling. I need to be more hopeful. So you also, leading on from that about the COVID, Parker, so was it 14 million people have been vaccinated so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just trying to find it now. More than 14 million people have received the first dose.
Yeah. Which is, I think, is pretty good considering there's 70 million people in the UK. I think that's the last population census. I think that's pretty good going, don't you? Really, the big drive since Christmas, I suppose, or since before Christmas. I mean, it's one thing that a lot of people have been critical of it, to say that it's taken too long, but it's a big job. it's not like everyone can just queue up in one place, is it? Like let's all go to the vaccination warehouse down around the M25 and just get there. So I think we should congratulate the NHS for that, don't you?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
They're vaccinating from what I see is a fast rate anyway. I mean, Northampton is something like 7,000 vaccinations away from their target that they set to be completed by Sunday, I think it was.
Wow.
You think of how fast that they've done that, though. They've had to wait for shipments to come in, and there's obviously been trouble with the borders, and there's been other troubles as well. But considering everything, it's actually happened so fast.
Yeah. I mean, also, we should talk about the vaccination debacle, where one of the EU representatives, I can't remember her name, she was like claiming that Britain should give the EU these certain number of vaccinations that because the company that was meant to be supplying the EU weren't able to, and she got absolutely slaughtered in the press in the UK and the EU from saying something so ridiculous. I mean, I'm not a Brexiteer, but it does give them a bit of oomph, I would say. So Lawrence put out about vaccinations. What about news? Police not to get a vaccine. Now, I haven't seen that, Lawrence, at all. You'll have to, if you've got the link, put it in the chat and I'll get it up. But I did one of my kind of little love things I like to watch. 999. What's your emergency? Does anyone else watch that?
My nan granddad does.
You heard of it, yeah. So not this season, but the series before last was set in Northampton, which is why I like to watch it. And I found it quite interesting. But this one was filmed just as the first lockdown kicked in, and the police officers were talking about how worried they were about the effects of the coronavirus because it was early days. No one knew how deadly it was, but they still had to go out and do their jobs, which could involve physically restraining people, catching criminals, as it were. And I think people forget they're still people too. No? Yeah. So yeah, if Lawrence, if you can find me that link, I'll have a look into that, because if that's true, I mean, they're a frontline service. I mean, everything we hear like about frontline services getting the vaccine, like doctors and nursing, but you kind of presume other frontline services like emergency services would be included in that, or is that me just being a crazy lefty again? What do you reckon, Richard? Am I just a crazy lefty?
No.
Oh, excellent. So if you were in charge of the country, Richard, right? List the top 3 priorities for who would get the vaccination first. Go on then. In your mind, who would get the vaccination first?
NHS.
Yeah.
Everyone that works for NHS. People in care homes.
Yeah.
I can't really think of another one.
No,
I can't really think of another one.
No, that's all right. So you're looking at, like, front to do with age and quality of life, I suppose. Well, what about you, Parker? How would you differentiate it?
I would do those who work in the medical centre, so like the NHS, doctors, surgeries, all of that stuff. I would then do the most vulnerable, so kind of like the list that they've already sort of set out, and then
which is quite complicated, I should add.
Yeah,
because there's been loads of people, like, should we say, with acute illnesses, or there's something that doesn't fit any of those brackets, does it? Which is, yeah. So it's I think they should have just said these people, done. But hey ho, carry on.
Yeah. And then other frontline workers, like youth workers, people who work in shops and things like that have to be open. and then obviously everybody else.
And Laura is showing off because she's had her first one. Well, Laura,
congratulations.
you big
Congrats.
show off, you. Laura, I didn't think you were that old. Ooh. It's all right. I'm allowed to make a joke like that because she's not allowed out to punch me in the face. Yeah. So I think we should congratulate the NHS for doing this because it has worked a lot better than private companies trying to sort out track and trace, hasn't it? Because also I think with the vaccination stuff is it's good it's run by the NHS because they haven't used an Excel document that will run out of spaces. But so shots fired. Laura, it was awful when I was poorly. Yeah, so I actually had COVID over Christmas and I wasn't very well. For those that don't understand how vaccinations work, is they basically give you a tiny bit of the virus to make you immune to it. That's kind of how it works. So yeah, but it will make you poorly. I had my flu shot last year as an extra, like my build-up one, and I got the flu afterwards. Well, I got really bad flu. You know, man flu. It's terrible thing. But yeah, so I think we should congratulate NHS. COVID is hopefully on the decline, but please, we know it's half term next week. Don't go crazy. Well, to be honest, the young people haven't really been that much of an issue. I found it's been mainly everyone else that's been a bit older causing trouble. So Laura's also added that I do think teachers should be on the list. Get the schools back and help young people get back to routines and friends. Yeah, do you know what?
Yeah,
teachers, because the thing is, right? So in the early days when we understood what young people, I'm looking at you, Richard, you young people with your better immune systems and stuff like that, were acting as super carriers, apparently, weren't you? You Richard, carrying around coronavirus and giving it to everybody. So, because young people had better immune systems than the old, they would kind of catch it, not feel any symptoms, but would still be contagious. So would pass it on. So the risk that teachers were raising, and I think a lot of other people were raising, was like, well, teachers being sometimes older or near retirement age are in the risk category. And if Richard, you then go see your gran, not realizing you got it, you could do her harm, couldn't you? So having teachers on that list to protect them first and foremost, I think is a great idea for the young people to get a source of normality. But that still doesn't mean that you can go see your gran. I know that sounds horrible until they're vaccinated. So there is a step-by-step process, and most teachers are already on the list. Thank you, Lars. I kind of presumed they were. Well, I hoped they were. But yeah. So yeah. Hopefully, coronavirus is on the decline. We're still a long way off from opening youth clubs and stuff like that. Ministers have told people not to book holidays in the summer. Not that I was going to go anywhere nice. Although one of our colleagues, Leanne, apparently had to cancel her trip to America, which is pretty gutting. But Leanne, don't worry, it will still be there now. Trump is not in charge. So on that note, see my little moving on there. It's a skill. It's a skill I have. So I just want to touch on Trump because he's getting impeached for the second time. The Trump hype train might finally come to an end. He's no longer on social media, so we can't talk about the ridiculous things he says. And do you know what? In some ways, though, I think it's better for the world that he's not the president. I think I'm going to miss him. What about you guys? What's your feelings about Trump?
I'm going to miss the memes of it.
Yeah, I suppose I've missed the memes. He was a very good meme generator, wasn't he? Because that's all we care about is memes. Lockdown has driven us mad. What about you, Parker? Are you going to miss Donald Trump?
I mean, I have to agree with Richard. the memes and everybody making fun of him is what I'm gonna miss.
Yeah.
Miss the only thing I'm gonna miss, really.
And Lawrence has said, "Is impeaching another shade of tangerine?" Yes. So I mean, we obviously have got this new right-wing lady in America for Republicans who is spouting some of the most bat crazy stuff since Donald Trump had Twitter. So she's carrying the torch for him. She's a bit nuts. But the new, I think I want to talk about the new, because it's LGBT History Month. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the new press officer. So I can't, let me get like the details. I can't remember her name. Jen Psiaki. So a Fox, let me bring it up and I can share it actually. So a Fox interviewer wanted to bring up a question about trans and cis women in high schools, but it was kind of, should we say, worded in a way to get a reaction.
Gender rights executive action, specifically when it applies to high school sports. What message would the White House have for trans girls and cis girls who may end up competing against each other, in sparking some lawsuits and some concern among parents? So does the administration have guidance for schools on dealing with disputes arising over trans girls competing against and with cis girls?
I'm not sure what your question is.
The president's executive order.
I'm familiar with the order, but what was your question about it?
My question is, does the president have a message for local school officials on dealing with these kind of disputes that are already starting to arise? Trans girls who are competing and cis girls in a level playing field, particularly in high school sports when it leads to college scholarships. Is there any kind of messaging or clarification that the White House wants to give on the executive order?
I would just say that the president's belief is that trans rights are human rights, and that's why he signed that executive order. And in terms of the determinations by universities and colleges, I would certainly defer to them.
So, yeah. Just like...
That question.
Yeah, I know. That was the thing. It was like, it was worded in such a way, I think, to get Jen Psiaki, I need to check on the pronunciation of her surname. I think to say something where the right-wing press can go, "You don't care about women." I just get that feeling. I don't know about you, Parker. What was your thoughts on that? For
well, it's annoying because when young people, especially, like I've said before, that there's this massive pressure on young people to know who they are, including their gender and sexuality, before they even get to the age of 16 and 18, when they legally become an adult. That in school, when they're playing sports, there's still that pressure on them to be able to present a certain way. It's the same for trans men as well. So often trans men and other non-binary people will bind, so they'll wear something that flattens their chest, but wearing that in sports isn't advisable because it can restrict breathing. And I don't know if there shouldn't be a conflict when they are playing sport, because most young people are a lot more accepting, and I feel it's the old generation that or the politics that are creating that conflict amongst young people, because they're saying this is how they are acting, And then it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where that is how they act, because these adults that we should be looking up to, saying that's how they're acting.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I'm just going to bring up this little comment. It's my mate Tim. Hi, Tim. Essentially, Jen Peace was just like, shush. which is very true. But I think, Parker, you've hit the nail on the head a bit there. Because it is, for me, right, because that question was so convoluted and so specific to the instance that happens in America of someone getting a scholarship, because obviously in America everything's privatized and you have to pay for everything, of a cis female being outdone by a trans female. It's so specific, isn't it? Like that I just feel like, well, what? You're making a mountain out of a molehill, really. And as you said, I don't think young people are bothered. I mean, Richard, you're the youngest one here. When you could go to school and college, I mean, what do you think the feeling was among your peers about like people's sexual identity or, being non-binary or cis or whatever?
Good question. What does it mean by cis?
So, Parker, go for it.
So cisgender is where you identify with the sex or gender assigned at birth. So when you are born, if they say, congratulations, you got a baby boy, you more often will identify as a boy / male.
Okay.
So it's so if you are happy with me, like say me, I was born a boy. I'm now a man, and I'm happy being a man, and that's who I identify as. So, does that explain it?
Kinda.
Okay. It's all right. It's a bit convoluted because it's still not taught really properly in school.
That's the first time I heard that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. To say it's the first time you've heard it. But let's think of it in a broader sense and taking the trans out of it a little bit. In the youth clubs, for example, have you had any young people that I've identified by different sex? So the youth clubs you've been to, or college, for example.
I don't think so.
No, okay, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. So if I told you, Richard, that I've decided that I want to identify as a woman, okay, for example, what would your first reaction be? Other than saying, aren't you a little bit too bald for that? But, that's fine.
I'll be happy for them because they've figured out what they are now. Yeah. And I'll be happy that they told me, that they had trust in me to tell me.
Which, and that is great because it's really important, I think, that young people, well, old people understand that young people are like that. It's like, oh, okay, we're happy with that. Because that's been my experience of other young people. I think one of the other youth clubs I said about Lodge Farm, where we had a few young people coming forward about identifying as non-binary or by a different sex or whatever. And all the other young people are like, okay. It's just, and then we get this Fox News reporter going, but I want to know about this specific case. Lars has just put a little segue in there. NHS to instruct midwives to drop breastfeeding in favour of chest feeding, which I think is quite interesting. But that also, it goes into a little bit of thing that I get really annoyed about. I'm about to have a rant. Yay! James for Prime Minister.
About time we have one.
Right. So this happened a few years ago because I've got a kind of similar feeling about kind of this specific thing with trans athletes or anyone identifying however they want. Whereas if they're happy to do that and it doesn't affect me, it's none of my business. If they want to tell me, I'll make a concerted effort to refer to them by the appropriate gender. I'm still getting used to that, and I still have to apologise to Parker every now and then because I'm still getting used to it. Just like when I was back at the youth clubs, I needed to really concentrate on doing it with some of the young people. But I just think that they're worried about something that involves trans athletes competing against cis athletes, it's the same kind of argument they're using when they're worried about the Paralympics, where you had the Blade Runners, for example, being able to run faster than normal Olympians. And they're like, oh no, we can't have this. We can't have this. It's like, it doesn't affect you. just let them. They're showing how good they can be with their blades, one blade or two blades or whatever. These Paralympians, which I prefer watching the Paralympics to the normal Olympics, to be honest, because of the amount of barriers they have to go through. And I'm like, just shut up.
It doesn't affect them, so why are you bothered? No. Why are you bothered about it?
Exactly. But I did have once a few years ago where I had this guy who basically was trying to wind me up by saying that there should be no Paralympics because they're not real people. Oh, did I get angry? Oh, a friend of mine had to take me outside for a cigarette when I used to smoke, put it that way. So we've got a few more comments. So Oliver, my little brother, hello Oliver. Schools have a system in place that makes it hard for people who don't identify as the social expectation, like being straight. Have I understood that right? Schools have a system in place that makes it hard for people who don't identify as the social. Oh, okay. So trans, you mean? I read that as like straight people are finding it difficult, which would not be the norm. So that system at your school, Oliver, you'd have to go into a bit more details about what they're doing. So do they exclude people from sexual education? Do they not cover that part of sexual education? You'd have to go into a bit more details. Right. Okay. Let's put this contentious question up, because I think this is a question that lots of people are worried about or feel worried about asking. So regarding identification, how do you ask someone what they want to be known as without saying, so what are you? Parker.
So rule number 1 is don't ask them their gender. They will come out and tell you when they're ready, when they trust you enough and safe enough to tell you that. But you can say, what's your preferred name and what are your pronouns? So Parker is my last name, and I'm not ashamed of saying my first name. My first name's Catherine, so my name's Catherine Parker, but my preferred name is Parker, and I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. So yeah, it's just a case of don't explicitly say what's in your pants, what's your gender, because you get that.
Wow!
We get that question.
Oh, I see, and I just know people have asked that question, like what's in your pants, and I'm like, oh my god. Carry on, Parker.
It's like you said, James. It's like you said, James. If it doesn't concern you, then.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't concern you what's in somebody's pants. That doesn't change how the person feels and what they identify as. But rule number 1 is basically don't ask what's in somebody's pants and what their gender is or what their sex is. Just say what's your preferred name and what are your pronouns.
Yeah.
And then that will give you an idea of what to refer to them as.
Yeah. And I think that's completely fair. So Laura said, great question for you, Loz. And Lawrence has said, thank you for the clarification. Great to have somewhere to ask. Welcome to Free2talk TV, where we try and clarify as much as possible. I mean, I think in a very, very general sense, with people, how people identify, treat it the same as like, when disability training, like for work and stuff, never presume someone's disability. Never walk up to someone in a wheelchair and go, what happened to you? It's the exact same thing, because it's just rude and not nice. But yeah, there is, I mean, Parker, I can't remember if this is going on our website, but the pronouns. So we've got a new website being built, which will have like a picture of us and what we do and a little saying. And Parker obviously suggested putting the pronouns on there as well, which So I've got to put this out there. I have spoken to a few people that are anti-pronouns in themselves, because for them it's like, well, you can see what I am. Whereas I find that I just don't find the issue. I'm like, put it on the website, and you know how to identify people if they want to share that.
Discord. I'm in a couple of Discord servers, and they have like sub roles, and one of the majority ones are, what are your pronouns?
Yeah. I mean, it's put there because Discord is used by a lot of young people, shall we say? And do you know what? Young people are ahead of the curve in working out what's respectful, aren't they? Into some degree, and these identity politics that are going on. And look, my little sister's come on as well. It's a family gathering, and she says she think it's just being respectful. I mean, Parker, let's ask you a question about pronouns. Do you think everybody should, in a first meeting, should tell you their pronouns?
If they feel safe enough and if they trust you enough, then yes. In an argument against where people have told you, well, they should be able to clearly see what I am, I get misgendered all the time because I come across as quite feminine.
Yeah.
So people will often use she, her pronouns. But also, for example, gender fluid people, I believe that's the correct term, where they don't swap genders, but they go to and from male and female, and then they'll use different genders on different days. It's always good to address what pronouns they want to use for that day. Also, I know somebody who is cisgender, so identifies with the sex they were assigned at birth, but uses they, them pronouns because those are the pronouns they feel suits them best.
There's a celebrity that's done that as well, haven't they? I can't remember who it was. Carry on.
There are loads of people who will come across more masculine or feminine, but use pronouns not typically associated to the way that they present themselves.
Yeah.
So, for example, like me, where I come across as quite feminine, I don't use she, her pronouns. I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. So, for me, it would benefit me. And also, I could look at somebody and they may come across as quite masculine, but, they might use she, her pronouns. You don't know until you ask. Yeah. And I think having those pronouns on, like, our website will make us more approachable to LGBT young people.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. So as Laura's just put on there, it's Sam Smith. Thank you for getting my old brain working. In a professional sense, I think I need to reiterate this. In a professional sense, because of the job we do, having it on the website, I've got no issue with whatsoever, like telling people what my pronouns are, unless obviously, and this is difficult because you're still, Parker, it's fair because we've talked about this. You've still been going through a journey, haven't you? Really?
Yeah. Always.
It is a lifelong journey. Yeah. So if someone goes, well, I'm still on that journey, I don't want to say. Again, there's nothing wrong with that either.
No, there isn't.
Because it goes back down to, does it affect you? No.
Yeah, I think as well, like, what it's going to take you 2 seconds to say what your pronouns are. What's 2 seconds out of your life gonna change? Yeah,
I mean, but also, I think this is to do with a little bit about my age, because I'm like the oldest one here, and a little bit about me. Just I'm a man. That's how I've understood it. But also on the other side, if someone asked me what my pronouns were, I wouldn't consider it rude. I'd go, he, and him. But that's because I haven't gone through that journey. Because I'm just, I don't want to use the term I've grown up with that as my norm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think should we be conscious of that? That just because you feel comfortable, well, we should be. Just because you feel comfortable saying what your pronouns are, not everyone will. Is that fair?
Yeah, I understand people won't feel comfortable saying what their pronouns are, no matter their gender identity, whether they're cis or not. But when somebody asks you, they're asking you 99% of the time anyway, out of respect.
Yeah.
So I think it's also worth keeping in mind that they respect you enough to ask you what your pronouns are.
Yeah. Well, that definitely goes. So my sister is a teacher in a college, I should add. So I think sometimes people are worried that they may offend somebody and say the wrong thing. Yeah, but there's another thing with it. You know, you're not, unless you specifically are trying to be aggravating or abusive, you're not necessarily saying the wrong thing. Yeah, it's a difficult one, I suppose, but I will have to adhere to Parker's better knowledge than me. So I'm just conscious of the time. Sorry, we will continue this conversation for the LGBT History Month next week, because I've been doing some reading on some fun stuff like that's happened in UK history. Because I think I mentioned about the lesbian women that abseiled into Parliament last week, which I was like,
I love it.
There's got to be more stories like that. So Jodie has come on and said, "Hey Fat Choi," which is Chinese New Year. Happy New Chinese New Year. I hope I'm saying it correctly, Jodie. Hey Fat Choi, I think. But yeah, so it is Chinese New Year today. I didn't realise until Wednesday that it was Chinese New Year this week. Not because anyone told me, but simply because of a computer game I was playing. Because I was like, why are there all these Chinese lanterns everywhere? In a computer game. It's like, oh yeah, it's Chinese New Year. So Laura said, James, you get Q space leaders on to talk. Well, do you know what? I need to contact them because I keep putting it out there. I want guests, but no one comes back to me. So I will start just effectively knocking on people's doors and dragging them out of their house, but in the online world. Right. So before we finish off, we'll talk about this in more details next week in the half term. So in 2 weeks' time, on the 25th, Free to Talk will be running an online health conference, which is all centered around young people and young leaders, talking about coronavirus, detecting like fake news, understanding it. So it's just be like an hour little conference which will be broadcast into schools. It's only currently on Facebook, but I will be able to put it on other platforms close to the time because I'll be the backstage producer. But if anybody would like more information about that, please watch this space. All the correspondence is going out. It's just happened very, very, very quickly. So yeah. And Laura, you will hook me up. Yes, please do. Please send me all of their emails so I can spam them loads because I love doing that.
Every 10 minutes, is this a yes?
I contacted you. My last email is dated today, as in 10 minutes ago, and you have not yet replied. As per the below, I got to add that because of one of my other jobs that I had, I can write really... I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed emails, like really good ones, because I love doing it. Right. So we're at that stage of the week where we talk about the things that have happened this week that have made us the happiest. And Parker, I've got what you spoke about queued up, but I don't know if you had another one.
Oh.
Because what I could do is I could show the video for all of us, like because we're all happy about it, I think.
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, should I do that? Right. So there was a story in Texas.
I read that title correctly.
of a lawyer in Texas.
I'm excited for this.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. you might want to take
we're
a
trying
look.
can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
God damn it.
I'm not a cat.
That video.
So yeah, that brought us quite a lot of enjoyment.
It's just
I love how he has to say, "I'm not a cat."
You have to clarify that.
So that made me and Parker happy this week. And Richard, is that the first time you've seen it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm not a cat. So Richard, going round, what fun or happy thing has happened to you this week which made you really happy?
I hit my first 9 data in darts.
Wow, did you?
Yeah. I got the same reaction. I was literally crying because I've been playing darts for like 5-6 years now, and I never had one. And
that is amazing.
I got it.
What did you finish on?
141.
Oh, nice.
I did the original.
That's wicked. That's really good. Well done.
I was literally like, did I just do this?
Yeah. For those that don't follow darts, if we stuck Richard in a working men's club surrounded by loads of people and he got that 9 data, every single grown man in the place would go mad.
Oh, beers are just flying out.
Oh, yes. Well, congratulations, mate. That's really cool. Parker, what is yours?
I said at the start I applied for Youth Work Masters this week. Not gonna lie, I haven't stopped checking the progress. Just trying to think of anything. I think it's just my dog. My dog's a highlight of every day of every
That
week.
is wicked. Well, I hope, fingers crossed for the Masters. You just have to treat it like people used to treat trying to get Glastonbury tickets, like refresh over and over and over again. Now my happy thing, because we've shown that cat as well, and I'm going to try and remember this for next week as well, because it brings up another subject I want to talk about next week. Because my happy thing that happened to me yesterday was I was out for a walk with my partner down Abington Park, and I've recently started taking almonds, like shelled almonds, in my coat pocket so I can feed the squirrels. Okay, because I'm just a little bit obsessed with feeding the squirrels. And yesterday, I had a nut in my hand, and not one, but 2 squirrels took the nut out of my hand and it ate it. And the first one made me almost like kind of wet myself in laughter because I was so excited. It was so cute. So I had the nut in my hand. Okay, I'll just get it down to the camera like this, waiting for the squirrel. And he came up behind me, right? So I turned my hand, and as I turned my hand, he's basically jumped on my hand, right? But he's because his eyes are on the side of his head, he's missed the nut rolling down my fingers a little bit. So he then starts. I've got my gloves on. He then starts going into my gloves. It's like, where's that nut? Where's the nut gone? Where have you hidden it? And I was like, oh mate, it's there. And he goes, oh okay, thanks. And then he goes off. And I was like, oh. It made me very, very happy. I do love squirrels. So, so James and the Squirrel Adventures. So I have got another side project which I've been kind of working on, maybe with the help of Leanne for doing some art. But I'm planning on doing not a Jack Anori online session, but a James Anori session where I tell a story I've made up And one of them does involve squirrels. So watch this space. We'll have to wait and see for that. But next week, I want everyone to think about this, because I thought about seeing that cat video and me feeding the squirrels, and I'm weirdly obsessed with making goose sounds when I go down the park and see geese. I try and imitate them, and I'm just like Dr. Dolittle a little bit, or some might say just nuts, which is what squirrels are. Hey! Anyway, so for next week, I want everybody to think about this. If we could replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, because I have to say this, because my girlfriend thinks Boris Johnson is a hamster. Okay? She actually thinks he's just a hamster because he's got crazy hair and talks rubbish. So what animal would you like to see as Prime Minister of the country, and why? So I'm going to leave you with that to think about, right? Till next week. And anyone that's seen us in the chat as well, you can come back next week and give us your answers as well. Which animal would you like to see as Prime Minister? And we will analyse those answers next week, because it is half term. So I thought we'd do something fun. Does that sound all right with everybody?
Yeah.
Sounds cool with me.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
I also have another favourite thing about this week.
Oh, go on then.
Playing Sea of Thieves on twitch.tv for Free2talk Gaming. Definitely did not just press enter in chat.
Yeah, he's excellent at Richard does it every week. Don't forget to plug the Twitch channel. Yes, so we do that every week. We actually on Wednesday had our highest unique viewers this year so far for Star Wars Squadrons, which I think is great. So having Parker and Charlotte on the chat on Mondays and Wednesdays, I think is really helping. I will be, though, taking a little break from one or two of the streams, maybe the daytime streams, because I need to redo the channel, and it's going to take a bit of time. Shannon, you've come on late. Yes, we play Sea of Thieves on Twitch. I've been waiting for you to see it because you're obsessed with Sea of Thieves. You play it on a Monday night. So if you want to come play with us, let us know. You can send me a Facebook message, and we can set up a crew on the salty sea dog as we get sunk by everyone else in the game, because we're not very good at pirating at the moment. Yeah. But anyway, thank you everyone very much for watching and joining and getting on the comments. Give us a like if you have watched us anyway, so I can see it. But we're going to say goodbye. Shannon, yes, get right on it. So yeah, but we're going to go. It's I've got that Friday feeling. It's bye-bye from me, it's bye-bye from him, and it's bye-bye from them. There we go. Thank you. Bye, stream.
Bye.